Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of From a Woman to a Leader. And today we are going to talk about forging your path, empowering women in male-dominated tech leadership. And I'm super excited to have here Michele with me.
Hi, Lamore.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, good. And I'll just do a quick intro, Michele, and then we'll dive right in. So Michele Wispelwey is the co-founder and COO of FemGevity. And I will let you, Michele, later on talk all about it. And Michele will share her incredible journey of forging her path in a very male-dominated field and how her experiences have shaped her mission to empower women in tech leadership. And hi, how are you?
I'm great. And you?
I'm good. Yeah.
Good.
And
Thank you for having me.
thank you so much for being here. And Michele, I think before we dive right in, I'll be happy if you can kind of share a little bit about your career, your journey, and what led you to become a strategic healthcare executive specializing in women's healthcare.
Absolutely. I would love to dive into that. So I've been in the diagnostic laboratory space my entire career. I really started at some of the top ranked institutions of Quest and LabCorp, really got my core training there. And from there, I branched on to much more riskier areas where it's a regional laboratories where they're smaller, just a little bit more condensed, not as out there in everyone's space. And from there, I grew. And most recently, I was a director of women's health services, where I spearheaded the development of women's health programs and molecular diagnostics, genetics, cytology. And from there, I really became a resource, mentor, strategist, and I just collaborated with organizations and other healthcare leaders to really initiate change, improve access for women's health, because I was always focused predominantly in women's health. And because our healthcare system has just been so stagnant in process and programs. And really from my comprehensive understanding of the diagnostic landscape, that's what really enabled me to become, a visionary integrative leader in femtech in this digital healthcare industry, and which led me to, in 2022, myself and my other co-founder founded FemGevity. And FemGevity is a digital telemedicine platform that offers women access to customized concierge care for menopause and feminine longevity.
That's wonderful. And we'll talk more about FemGevity and why. Why is it important? Why women need it? Especially women like myself over 40. I'll be happy to hear kind of what drove you to start it.
Yeah, that's a great question. So really our mission at FemGevity is to create solutions that empower women to take control of their well-being and achieve their fullest potential, their optimal health, not spot treat. So there is a major dearth in our healthcare system where women don't get the resources and doctors don't have the education for the longest phase of your life, which is this menopause space. And, there's going to be an estimated 1.1 billion women in menopausal state by 2025. In the US alone, there's 31 million between 40 to 55. And about 73% of women their studies have acknowledged that they don't feel comfortable on where to go for those. So right there's a major problem, and there's a lack of solutions. There's lack of solutions that actually bring personalized care to women, where it doesn't treat each woman as one size fits all. Mm-hmm. So we saw an opportunity here to really do a unique treatment model, personalized care, not one size fits all, and really bring a concierge type medicine down to the consumer level at an attainable price for this hormone balancing. So, there's so much with your puberty, your adolescence, your pregnancy, and all of those stages in life. But, menopause lasts anywhere from like 7 to 10 years. Some even say up to 14 years, depending for some women. And that's the stage in life that's going to define your health the most, on how you treat it and how you go about it, and preventative health. So there's a major opportunity to really just empower and redefine aging for women to live longer, healthier lives.
That's wonderful. And how is that impacting women's career, you think, like dealing with those hormonal changes in their lives?
Yeah, that's a great question, because, there's been a lot of press recently over the past couple months for menopause benefits in the workforce. And there's been various studies, especially the Mayo Clinic came out with one that has shown that the productivity for women during that age range and those stages in life actually decreases. Companies don't have the highest ROI. Premiums for healthcare goes up because you have more health ailments. Women spend an estimated of $20,000 a year, whether it's like prescriptions or supplements or creams based on like joint pain, cramping, spotting, all different types of issues. And it takes women out of the workforce because they can't sit in a boardroom if you're having a hot flash in front of 7 other men. Not only is it embarrassing, but it's debilitating. So it's actually one of the areas that we're focusing on too, a separate vertical. But there has been a lot of talk and discussion around it. It's going to be a complicated thing to really nudge forward. But I think once it hits, it will hit in a big way.
Absolutely. And yes, there are changes that are happening in our bodies. And a lot of times, I mean, I can share personally, I mean, I try to ignore them, right? I mean, and say, oh, nothing is wrong. Everything is okay.
Yeah, it's true, because, you don't know you're not supposed to feel that way because you've been feeling a certain way, right? I mean, how many women, friends do you have that constantly feel tired or fatigued, or just feel foggy, and you just think, oh, I've been running around with the kids, I didn't sleep well, I'm getting older. But that's not how you're supposed to feel. And it's become very patriarchal and accepted in society for women's like suffering and pain, and just like it being the norm.
Absolutely. And I think that us as women, I mean, we need to, I think for us first, to identify those symptoms and understand that this is something that is going on and we must not ignore it. I mean, I know that I definitely feel a lot more tired than I used to. And I sweat a lot, sometimes when I talk, when I'm anxious, right? When I'm public speaking, I sweat. And it never happened to me. And I realized that those are some hormonal things that are going on, but I want more women to realize that.
Correct. That it's so, if you think about it, your whole life, you were born with estrogen and progesterone. Testosterone is one of the most predominant hormones in a woman's body. We just have less of it than our body is a smaller composition of it than a male. But once those start depleting, that's when your levels and your symptoms really take a turn. And like estrogen protects you from osteoporosis and diabetes, and breast cancer actually prevents breast cancer, doesn't cause breast cancer. So when those things are leaving your body, those hormones that you've been born with in your whole life, that's when you're going to start feeling a significant difference in your health and how you feel. And you're not supposed to feel that way.
Yeah, absolutely. And what led you kind of to go to that path?
So that's a great question. There's a couple different reasons why. One, I've always been in women's healthcare. Two, my co-founder and I, we really understood like the landscape. And really one of the most important things is that my mom actually passed away when she was 51, and she had spotting, and she actually was told and had thought, because there was lack of education and resources, that it was fibroids, because a lot of women during fibroids, and her doctor told her she's going through her changes. Mm-hmm. So a lot of women get misinformed because you think, oh, your progesterone's out of whack, so you're spotting, your period comes and goes during that when you're entering menopause. Mm-hmm. And we still see this every day from women. And it was actually, my mom had cancer. She had cervical cancer that really progressed fastly. It was a rare kind, and she passed away. And for that reason, I remain very passionate about women having the resources and education and being in the right care with the right doctors, and promoting just innovative healthcare for women, and to pay it forward and not have someone experience what my mom experienced. And what I experienced is very traumatizing. And I actually, and we also have this longevity piece to FemGevity, which is really, you know, extending your health span, preventing disease, treating it before disease occurs, right? Our healthcare system has been very broken, and you treat diabetes when you have it. But how about let's like look at your levels now, and not just because it's within a normal range doesn't mean you don't do anything about it. Let's see where it teeters along that range and start doing some preventative things so you don't get there. So my point to this, to back up, is that, you know, I have heart disease and diabetes in my family, and I have a lot of young death in my family. And just because that's my family doesn't mean that that's what I'm destined for. So I'm a big advocate of doing this myself and living this life for preventative medicine, and letting patients and the community see how you go about to not get off that cliff, and to kind of go about it in a certain manner. You know, if I really want to be completely transparent, I have a notoriously high LDL and ApoB, right? Which is like a precursor for, you know, strokes and a lot of heart diseases. But I'm not going to let myself get there, because I'm doing things now to make sure I don't have like a stroke like my father, you know? So if that's pretty much it.
Wow. First of all, I'm very sorry to hear about your mom. I mean, I
Oh,
cannot
thanks.
imagine losing a mom at such a young age.
Yeah. I was very young. I was my young 20s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we definitely want everyone to live not just healthy, but quality life, and continue pursuing our life and careers, because we are really at our peaks
Correct.
at this age, and we don't want to stop. I know I don't want to stop. I have so many things I want to do. And a lot of times I feel I really cannot do as much as I used to. I feel way more tired and exhausted as I used to be.
Yes. And sleep plays a really big role in your cortisol levels. Actually, sleep, you know, if you're not sleeping, it causes stress, which actually in return can elevate your cholesterol if you're predisposed. Your testosterone levels, it's just, sleep is so vital. And if you look at the risk for women with Alzheimer's and dementia, or the risks between men and women with Alzheimer's dementia, it's much higher for women, because of women losing, you know, insomnia and not sleeping and night sweats from that menopause stage in their lives. And we could prevent that. So let's kind of reverse and make it not statistically evident that it's more prevalent in women for those diseases. Let's reverse it. Let's redefine how we're going about our health for women.
Absolutely. Yeah. And kind of, you know, what do you think women can do when they observe those symptoms? I mean, what should they be doing?
So one, they could come to FemGevity Health. But, you know, if we're not in their state, you have to make sure you go to a doctor that's a specialist in menopause and hormone balancing. A lot of doctors are not comfortable with it. 80% of medical residents have reported that they're not comfortable with treating women for hormone therapy, because they're not trained on it in medical school. It's an actual elective. So highly recommend only seeing somebody that really understands the complexities of it. And if someone's not going to give you laboratory testing before they give you any type of hormones or bioidenticals, do not allow that person to treat you, because we stand very strong at FemGevity that you need to have your hormones tested and to see the levels and the fluctuations to really understand like the proper dosing and what you should be on, and a combination of a treatment plan.
Absolutely. I actually remember arguing with one of my previous doctors about kind of what kind of tests, I should be doing. And I completely agree with you.
Yeah, a lot of doctors that aren't really trained in hormones, they will just give you like, they'll test your like TSH and maybe your progesterone, and your estradiol, and kind of call it a day, throw a CBC in there and a CMP, but it really, you have to get down deeper. Our panel's pretty, it's pretty big to be able to see a full scope.
Yeah. And I wanted to talk a little bit about, because we are here, this podcast is actually not about so much about health, but it's kind of, very, very interesting and relevant topic for women, especially for me, right? I'm at that age. But I wanted to talk a little bit about your career. And you obviously worked in a very male-dominant field in medtech, and what kind of some of the biggest challenges that you faced navigating in a very male-dominated field, and how did you overcome them?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest challenges was always doubting a woman that can rise above. I actually, I was one of, for a very long time, so I was like a strategic sales executive in the diagnostic space. And I was really, I had a lot of success, especially in like molecular genetics early on, before it really even became like a thing. And I remember I had a boss that had a lot of success, and I had always admired him. And I always said, I was like, I want to get where you get. But he literally told me, he's like, what you're saying you want to do, you will never do. It is not possible. And I actually did I surpassed him on what he had ever done in his past career. And those are the things where I think it was just like the doubt in men, and not really thinking a woman could dominate the fields like they could. I think those are the biggest challenges, and really just, you get caught up in what everyone else is doing, and that actually sets you back, worrying about what that person's doing and how do I get better than them. But you can't do that. You need to, reflect on yourself and focus on exactly what you're doing and where your outcome and the impact that you want to make. And that's when you'll really soar and fly your wings.
Yeah, definitely. Comparing yourself to others will not do you any good.
Mm-hmm.
I actually usually notice more men doing that than women, but yes, it exists. It's a human thing, to kind of compare yourself. It's definitely not good. And I think that doubting ourselves is something that it happens a lot more for women than for men. So what helped you kind of basically ignore what your former manager was saying and surpassing him?
Wisdom, confidence, I would say, some resilience, and just being able to bounce back from the thoughts in my head, and not afraid of failure and mistakes, and to just learning that making a mistake in business and how you're going about things is actually a positive aspect, because it helps you to know what you want to do better and what you don't want to do.
Yeah, making mistakes is definitely part of the journey for everyone. The problem is that a lot of times we get beaten up by others, by our managers, or by the company we work for mistakes. So how would women, face that if someone is making a mistake which is not positively accepted?
Yeah, it's a good question. There's different levels of mistakes. There's careless mistakes, and then there's mistakes that, that you're doing something you're not taught, and you're just going by instinct, and just kind of, going with the flow. And, I think this is I have to say, this is actually a tough question, because for a woman to make a mistake and to be really chastised for it by a male boss, and to move forward from it, is really, I don't know. I actually, it's this, This is a hard answer because
Yeah.
it really depends on the situation, and I know that's a terrible answer, but it really depends on the boss, the situation, the company, what it is. Has your peers made the same mistake and you make the same mistake and you're being scolded for it and they're not? It's really
Yeah.
situational. So I really
Yeah.
don't have any
Yeah. Yeah.
profound
Absolutely.
advice for that. Um,
I mean, what I usually, in general, not just about mistakes, but I usually, tell my clients is that they need to kind of weigh in the environment they're at
mhm,
and figure out if that's the right environment for them or not, because a lot of times it goes for, about the company values and how company operates, and usually
yeah,
it trickles down, you know. I've noticed that, at least, this blaming culture and culture that mistakes are not welcome, not just by women, but maybe women are beaten up more.
yeah,
And it's coming from above, and you see executives kind of pointing fingers. And then you need to ask yourself if really you want to be in that kind of environment, or
yeah.
sometimes it's just your manager. Sometimes you need to fire your manager.
Yeah, and that's what I mean by situational. It
Yeah.
depends. And I think early on at a company, if you're new to a company and you start, you're really gonna get a good feel of, well, shit, if I make a mistake, this is not going to be a forgivable one, or I need to take a hike as soon as I make a mistake, right? So I think the environment, it all is dependent on the environment and how you could approach and talk to your peers and mentors. And if you're at a company where you feel that you have no mentor, you're not at the right spot for you, right? There's a right seat and a right company for everybody. But if you feel that you can't have any advisors or someone helping you to be better, and to reflect, then I think it definitely is not the right place for you.
Definitely. And who helped you? I mean, how did you find those people that will help you?
I, I there's one of my most recent position. My boss there, he helped me tremendously. He was really a mentor. He was a friend. He really rooted for me and saw more potential in me than I actually saw in myself at the time, I think. And you just know the way you can connect, you don't seek it. And it could take, being 20 years in an industry until you really find that one person that is your person for just thriving and like growth professionally and personally too. So it just, I personally feel that it comes organically, and it's not something that you could look for, but it
Yeah.
will come.
Yeah. I think it's about building relationships and trust.
1000%.
Yeah.
It's if you don't trust, if there's something that you don't trust and don't feel in your gut, and that's where I'm a big believer in like a gut instinct with humans interaction, especially in a business setting too, then you're not going to be able to trust them and have them as a mentor or advisor and have them be there for your growth.
Yeah. Absolutely. And can you share maybe about key kind of people or partnerships or collaborations that help you forge your path? Because you did like a tremendous growth in, working for companies and then starting your own company.
Yeah, so I think a lot of relationships that myself and my co-founder have developed throughout the years are actually people that are with us at FemGevity, like our director of operations, our medical director. We have our nurse practitioners, and they're people that believe in us, trust us, and it is the most wonderful thing to be able to start a company and work so closely with people that you trust and have the same, they appreciate your values and your mission. And those relationships that we forged throughout the years have blossomed into collaborations with them working for us and with us, right down to even, my business partner. We used to work together, right? We were, she was a client of mine, and we became friends after that and remained friends for years until we birthed FemGevity. And that's a prime example of relationships and trust.
Absolutely, yeah. And what do you think women in tech leadership can do to close the gaps in women's healthcare and advocating for benefits that are related to women's health issues, to menopause in the industry?
We have to make sure our creative ideas are not stagnant. We need to always be on our toes. What's next? What's better? Think about, you have to keep on developing ideas based on the impact that you want to make, right? So whether it's the impact in menopause benefits in the workforce, or impact in hormone balancing for women, or personalized care solutions, or laboratory data and in analytics, you have to always be on the forefront and not settle for, okay, this is good for now. Okay, it's good for now. Now what's next? And I think that's just a part of being an entrepreneur and a visionary and an integrator, and always wanting more and more innovation, and to just be networking with each other. And when I mean networking, I mean within the femtech industry, there are so many amazing women and leaders and founders, and I've been on panels with some, and collaborating and connecting and bouncing ideas off of one another is just so important, because you never know what one founder has an idea from a different company and this founder, and then you all come together and you figure something else out. So you're constantly moving forward.
Definitely. And where do you think women should go to network?
There's so many. There's a lot of, communities and blogs. There's seminars. There's so many. There's a lot of networking groups. And once you're kind of meet one person, you ask to meet another person. A big thing is LinkedIn. I've met a lot of people through LinkedIn, where I just have followed them and things that they've been in. And I'm just hey, would love to pick your brain for 10 minutes. So very impressed by your work. We've met women through our accountant has introduced us to, some great women in the femtech industry that they just thought we had very good synergies for. So it's anywhere. I mean, you go to the grocery store, right? Or you never know whose sister, whose whomever, whose cousin works in the industry or something. The sky's the limit where you go. It could be something as formal as, a women's networking club, they get to be invited to, or something as just on a forum and meeting some people. We have, a group of 5 women that we do a monthly founders call. We're all femtech, we're all different types of industries, right? Whether it's sexual health and pregnancy and whatnot, but we just kind of bounce ideas off of each other and just talk. And one person may know something that's going on that another person doesn't. They've introduced us to investors because we're in a seed round right now. So it's just, I think it's amazing. Networking and meeting people and talking to them is one of my favorite things to do. Mm-hmm. I find people interesting.
Yeah. So basically just being open to meeting new people and curious.
Yes.
Definitely. And looking ahead, what do you envision for the future of women's healthcare and the role of technology in empowering women in tech leadership?
I envision a lot more automation for women with testing. I envision a lot more being tied around DNA analysis for being more predictive medicine and not just doing, you know, your annual physicals, but let's take a deep dive into like what all your DNA mutations are and start treating based on preventative instead of like, let's come for our annual physical and get our CBC and lipid. No, let's take it a step further and get some deeper analysis on what you're predisposed to and start treating it that way. That's where I see it going. And I think, I do believe that it's going to get there.
That's great. So how can women that are interested contact you?
We could go to FemGevityHealth.com. Our social handles at FemGevity. You go on our website and live chat us, live text us. You could call us. We're on LinkedIn. You could find me on LinkedIn. Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, everywhere. We try to be everywhere.
Great. Definitely. I'll put all your links there.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Michele, for being here today and being so open about this topic that, you know, a lot of people don't feel comfortable talking about.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate being able to talk openly about this.
Thank you.